This graph tracks a collision course that major social media platforms try to ignore. The bottom line measures living users. The top line tracks the deceased. By the 2060s, dead profiles outnumber the living. These platforms transform into vast, silent archives containing billions of entries. This is the domain of digital thanatology. It views biological death as a cybersecurity vulnerability, a critical system failure that triggers a cascade of data lockouts. Humans have spent millennia perfecting the laws and rituals for passing down physical wealth. But the moment your heart stops, your digital life triggers an instant automated lockdown. Legal scholars identify this as the intention-action gap. You might want your family to inherit your photos and accounts, but corporate terms of service typically prohibit anyone else from using your login credentials. Consider the immediate aftermath of a loss. A grieving relative sits down at a computer and tries to log into an iCloud or Facebook account using the deceased's password to retrieve family photos. In the eyes of the law, that relative is committing a federal crime. Under the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, accessing a server without direct authorization from the provider is a violation. A traditional paper will cannot help here. A notary cannot force Apple or Google to bypass two-factor authentication or violate their own encryption protocols. The friction between ancient inheritance laws and modern server encryption turns well-meaning heirs into targets for federal prosecution. This lockdown extends to hard financial assets. In the decentralized web, there is no central bank to petition for access and no customer service hotline to call if you lose a private key. Because of that rigid cryptography, between 11 and 18% of the total Bitcoin supply is now permanently lost. That is roughly $380 billion of wealth sitting locked in dormant wallets. Look at this landfill in Wales. It contains a hard drive holding the private keys to hundreds of millions of dollars in Bitcoin. Despite funding robotic dogs and excavation teams, the fortune remains buried under thousands of tons of garbage. This establishes the absolute rule of the digital economy. Ownership equals access. Without that private key, the wealth is functionally erased from the economy. While crypto wallets lock wealth in, social media accounts leave personal data exposed. Major privacy regulations like the GDPR are designed exclusively for the living. Once a user dies, they are no longer a data subject, stripping away their legal privacy protections. This legal loophole has fueled the death tech industry. Companies scrape the text messages, emails, and social media footprints of the deceased to train large language models, creating conversational deadbots. Because the dead have no legal right to consent, anyone can create these digital clones. In recent cases, murder victims and private citizens have been reanimated as public chatbots without their family's permission. These models do not recall facts. They predict the next likely word. When an AI hallucination introduces a detail that never happened, like a fake story about a shared holiday, the human brain can struggle to distinguish the machine's fiction from actual history. Clinical psychologists call this self-memory entanglement, where the digital twin begins to replace the authentic history. Vulnerable digital footprints allow tech companies to exploit the inability to let go. They turn human mourning into a monthly subscription to a synthetic ghost. By default, we are outsourcing the curation of the 21st century's digital heritage to a handful of massive tech monopolies. These companies are now the gatekeepers of our collective human memory. This creates the threat of platform temporality. Digital souls take up physical space, and maintaining those servers costs money. If a platform goes bankrupt, or if storing inactive accounts becomes too expensive, millions of digital histories can be wiped out in a single spreadsheet decision. If we rely on corporations whose only operating principle is capital, the preservation of our generation's history will be dictated entirely by profit margins. There is a way to patch this vulnerability. Legal frameworks now allow for the appointment of a digital executor, a designated fiduciary empowered to manage your technical assets and online accounts. Bypassing the fiduciary trap requires combining that legal authority with an encrypted digital vault. This ensures your master passwords and private keys are passed on securely, giving your heirs the technical means to access your data. It forces a question we must eventually answer. If you log off for the final time today, who inherits your digital soul? Secure your legacy before your time runs out. Subscribe for more critical analysis on the intersection of cybersecurity and your digital life.